Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. We'll start with a minute of chanting Om. Do it at your own pace so that there's a resonance of Om going on. I'll start off and you can chant by yourself. Namaste and welcome everybody. Thank you for turning out in large numbers. We are especially grateful to Prabodhji and Lavanyaji for their generosity and the initiative in organizing this retreat and opening up their beautiful home to all of us. So in this short retreat, we shall take up the text, this book, the Upadesa Saram. Some of you have got a newer edition. I never taught it earlier. When Prabhuji suggested it, I found that I actually had an old edition, so this is it. This is a translation by Tejomayanandaji, but the original text is by Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. So we're going to study this. The way it will go is, I'll take up a portion of the text and comment upon it, and then at the end of the talk, you're all free to raise your hands. I'll call upon you. You can come to the hot seat here and you can ask a question. If you're comfortable, tell us your name so that it's going to be recorded, so it'll be there. If you're not comfortable with telling us your name, it's all right. You can just ask the question. So the story goes that that one of the disciples of Bhagavan Ramana, Sri Muruganar, who was a great poet himself, he was engaged in a poetic project of taking some of the stories and teachings from the Shiva Purana and putting it in the form of a Tamil epic. So he was taking some of the stories there and making Tamil verses. And the story goes, the particular story which he was putting down, it goes, to cut a long story short, I won't go into the story itself, it's there in the introduction of the book if you want to read it. There were several sages who were engaged in Vedic karma kanda, ritualism, the Vedic ritualistic practices which were performed to gain some powers, siddhi or powers, supernatural powers and accomplishments. And Shiva wanted to teach them that real spirituality is self-knowledge. So in order to teach them a lesson, there's a long story about it, but finally a point comes when the sages realize their mistake and ask Shiva for instruction, and Shiva instructs them in self-knowledge. Now when Muruganar came to that point, he had already written down verses for the rest of the story, but when he came to that point where Shiva is instructing the sages, he thought that why should I compose it? Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi is right there, so let me ask him what is the instruction given by Shiva to the sages in his own words, the essence of his teachings. So when he requested Ramana Maharshi gave these verses, very short text of 28 verses. I think the original was in Tamil, and then quite remarkably, this is a remarkable text because the author himself, the composer himself, Ramana Maharshi, has translated them in this text into 4 languages. So, first of course the original Tamil, that's one, but then also Malayalam and then Telugu and Sanskrit. So the same text is available in 4 languages from the composer, the author. And in that he pours out his teachings, the essence of his teachings. That's why it's called Upadesa Saram, the essence of the teachings. Now one thing to understand before we dive into it, it's an Advaitic text. Most of us here, we are students and practitioners of Advaita Vedanta. So one thing to understand is that Ramana Maharshi did not, attend classes like us and go through the usual process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, hearing and reflection and meditation, but he had a direct experience, a direct breakthrough, enlightenment straight away. We all know the story. So I think most people here have been in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta for a time. So you are aware of the tradition itself and about Ramana Maharshi also. So the only thing that he did, which is, it can be called a kind of self-inquiry. If everything is gone, body is dead, and the mind has stopped, what is left? And he had this sudden breakthrough and realized that he was the Atman. But that was not the end of it. And he went into seclusion and long periods of absorption in Samadhi. And then that Samadhi ripened into what is called Sahaja Samadhi. And that's how he lived the rest of his life. Now, he found that, yes, settle down. Sure. He found that the terminology and methodology of Advaita Vedanta was most suited for expressing his experience and his teachings. So that's why what he taught and the few texts and hymns which he has written serve very beautifully as texts of Advaita Vedanta. That's the connection, right? All right. Having said this, I will jump into the text itself. You will notice very helpfully Prabhuji has given us a schedule of what we're going to study. And interestingly, of these 28 verses, half the text is what we're going to study. The other half we're going to summarize in this first session. Why is that so? Because Ramana Maharshi is uniquely identified with his teachings on self-knowledge, self-inquiry and self-knowledge. Who am I? And this self-knowledge, self-inquiry, you find in the second half of this text. From roughly 16 onwards till the end of the text, you find the teachings on self-inquiry, on who am I. But the first half, from verse number 1 to roughly 14, I'll tell you why I'm saying roughly. Because there's a little bit of a transition from 14, 15, 16, there's a transition, I'll talk about that. That is about other forms of sadhana. So what are these other forms of sadhana and why are they important? We should not overlook them. We overlook them in our quest for self-knowledge, we overlook them at our peril. Why are they important and what do they do? That we will see in this today's session. We should take it seriously because Bhagavan Ramana has called this book Upadesa Saram, the essence of the teachings, and it's a short text, and yet he devotes nearly half of the text to these other forms of sadhana, to karma, to dhyana, meditation, to bhakti. So what does bhakti do for us? What does karma do for us? What does meditation do for us? Why they are foundational to the core practice of self-inquiry, of the Advaitic approach. All right. Advaita Vedanta tells us that we are Brahman. We are existence, consciousness, bliss. And this, it's important to see what Advaita is talking about. It's not talking about something that is separated from us by time, space, or object. What do I mean by that? Space is, we are here and there is something else elsewhere. To come to this place, you have to drive here. So you have to cover some space to come to this place. So is the goal of spiritual life something that is to be attained elsewhere? You not here on this earth, but you go to heaven after death. Advaita Vedanta doesn't say that. You are Brahman. Brahman is the reality. You are that everywhere. Here and in heaven, wherever we are, you are Brahman. So Brahman is everywhere and Brahman is here too. So that the reality which Advaita Vedanta talks about is not separate from you by space. You don't have to go anywhere for that. It's everywhere. It is also not separate from us by time. What do I mean by that? Sometimes spirituality is taught in this way. Religion speaks about this time and that time. This is your worldly existence. After death, you will realize God, or you will go to heaven and you will find God. Notice the term after. It's a time word. Before and after. Before death, we are here. After death, then you will go to heaven and perhaps you will see God and all that. But Advaita Vedanta doesn't say that. Doesn't say that the Brahman, which is the focus of Vedanta, it's not something that is afterwards. It is all the time. It was there earlier, it is there now, and it will be there afterwards also. So you don't have to wait for Brahman. You don't have to wait for whatever reality Advaita Vedanta talks about. Also, there is no separation in object. I'm using the English equivalence of the Sanskrit desha kala vastu. So object means what we are seeking here is nothing apart from us. It's not a separate entity. There is not a separate God or not a separate heaven, not something separate from us which we are seeking. According to Advaita Vedanta, what you are seeking is non-dual. It is you, nothing other than you. So nothing outside you, not far away from you, not something to wait for, not even something that is a different state. Now you're in the worldly state, then in the heavenly state, or now you're in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, there will be some turiya state, then you will attain. No, not even that. What the Brahman which Advaita Vedanta speaks about is in all states, every state. If you ask, gold is the reality, in which ornament will you, golden ornament will you find gold? In all golden ornaments. In all golden ornaments. So it's not a separate state to be attained. Because sometimes people think, we are going to talk about it, samadhi. Oh, yes, I understand, but I'm just this person. And when I attain samadhi, see when, time, and state, samadhi, not waking state, samadhi state. That's a state of the mind. Then, if a state, see the way the language itself is interesting. If it's a state, it will be different from other states. Then whatever it is cannot be the non-dual reality. If it is something that comes and goes, then it is not the ultimate reality. If it is something that's available only in a particular state, then it cannot be the ultimate reality. One sadhu put it nicely, talking about attaining Brahman in samadhi. We will see that, but still, the confusion which arises. He says that if you are beloved, if you are Brahman, is available only in Samadhi. If your Bhagavan, your Brahman is available only in Samadhi. Said in Hindi, and translate. In Hindi he said, लो अपने प्यारे को समाधि के जेल खाने में बंद कर दिया. You have thrown your beloved, the what you are searching for. You have thrown your beloved into the jail of the prison of Samadhi. Only there it is available, not outside. No, it's not like that. So, great, available all the time, everywhere, right now. But then the big question arises. You see, if it's a dualistic teaching, the teacher is safe. Why can I not see my God here? Because God is not here. God is in heaven. That's why you can't see God. I'm safe. But if you're saying Brahman is everywhere, I can always ask, if it's here, yes, then why can't we see it? Why can't we experience it? If it is all the time, if it is not all the time, it's now, or it's not now, only after death, then I'm safe. You can ask, why can't I see God now? You say, no, you cannot see now. You will see only after death. But if you are in Advaita, if you say it is all the time, and it is now, then again a question will come, why I don't experience it now, if it is now? If it is myself and nothing other than myself, aham brahmasmi, why don't I feel it? Myself, I've got it right here. So this big question comes. And the answer to that, here we are entering into Samadhi. I'm preparing the background, and then we can quickly go through this, the first part of this text. I will just give a fast summary. So the background for the foundation for this, sadhana, spiritual practice, we're going to enter into this. What is it that we need to do? So what's our objection? Our objection is that if I am Brahman, why don't I experience it? Why doesn't it feel like that? If Brahman is everywhere and it should be here, why don't I see Brahman here or experience Brahman here? If Brahman is all the time, then if Brahman is now, then why don't I experience Brahman now, here and as myself? I don't. So the Vedantin will tell you, yes, if you say that you don't, then this is called ignorance. Avidya, ajnana. We'll say, wait, what was that? The fact that you just said, if Vedanta is true, then you are Brahman. Right here, right now, you are Brahman. And yet you don't feel that. You don't seem to experience that. We protest that this doesn't make sense. It's some kind of theoretical thing. So I don't feel that. Then in that case, this I don't feel that, I don't see that, I don't understand that, I don't realize that. This is called ignorance. So we have the first layer of problems. The first layer of problem is ignorant mind. We can't deny it because we just ourselves put the question forward. And Vedanta is claiming this. Either we have to say Vedanta is crazy, they are wrong, or if Vedanta is right, then I don't experience it. I'm ignorant of it right now. I'm admitting it. I'm ignorant of it right now. Often when you go deep into Vedanta, at some point or the other, this question will come up, that whose ignorance is it? Sometimes those who are students of Vedanta, at one point or the other you'll have this question, whose ignorance? Why? Because Vedanta is hammering into us that you are Brahman, your infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. Can Brahman have ignorance? And if I am Brahman, how can I have ignorance? How can the sun have darkness? So whose ignorance? So in different places, Adi Shankaracharya has answered this question. In one particularly funny place, in the Bhagavad Gita commentary, 13th chapter, this question is asked after a long discussion, that who is ignorant? And Shankaracharya replies there, why are you asking? The answer is, because I don't know. So you admitted, you are ignorant. You just said I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. So ignorant mind is the first layer of the problem. And the solution for any kind of ignorance is knowledge. So problem, ignorance. Solution, knowledge. Jnana. Problem is ajnana in Sanskrit. Solution, jnana. And then how? Method. In method, this is called jnana yoga. The sadhana will be called jnana yoga. What do you do in jnana yoga? What is this? Which particular posture do you have to sit in? What the method in jnana yoga is called shravana manana nididhyasana. Literally it means hearing, reflecting and meditating. hearing, contemplation, reflection and meditation. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. I'm not going into the depths of this, we will see later on. So, what is where are we now? By the process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, of hearing, reflecting and meditating on what? On Vedantic texts like this. What will happen? Knowledge will be generated. The Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, this is an expanded form of one practice, which is self-enquiry. Self-enquiry is the practice. And if you want a little more detail, it is hearing, reflecting, meditating. It's nothing very esoteric. I want to learn physics, suppose. Then I enroll myself in a class, and I go to the class, I listen to the professor, I read the handouts in the textbooks, then I think about it. More or less when I've got it, I might have to sit quietly and think very intensely, then I say I get it. What did I do? Hearing, reflecting and meditating. That's what I did. So this is the methodology. And this is a methodology basically for any kind of knowledge. And one need not unnecessarily mystify it. See, what happens is, when we talk about sadhana, we have some preconceived notion that you have to do something. Often, after listening to a lot of Advaita talks, lectures, you will have this question, one preliminary question always will come up. All right, I've heard it. Now what do I do? You have already started doing. Congratulations. Because when you are hearing, you have already started doing. See, here is the difference between this Advaitic path and the other paths. If you are going to learn Hatha Yoga, we had the International Day of Yoga recently, we're going to learn Hatha Yoga. It's not enough to read the Hatha Yoga manual, not enough to listen to a lecture about it. You actually have to do something. You have to get a yoga mat and you have to put your body a twist and turn and all of that, and the breathing, all of that you have to do to get the benefits. So, in Advaita Vedanta, in the path of self-enquiry, the inquiry is already started when you are listening. People don't understand, even practitioners don't understand. I remember I was in the Himalayas, in Gangotri, and there was this young monk who lived in a cave, and he sat up above this spectacular waterfall, meditating, because it was a good photo op. People, I think that was one of the reasons why he sat there. He meditated there, but people also used to, from the other side, would take photos of it. It's very iconic, no? You must have a yogi with locks of hair and sitting in meditating. But a very nice young man. He was just barely 20, 21 years old, from Nepal. I made friends with him and we were talking. And I asked him what was he practicing. He was practicing Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga, the eight-limbed yoga of Patanjali. Goal is Samadhi, to attain Samadhi. So my predilection is for Advaita Vedanta. So I asked him, तो वेदांत कैसा लगता है आपको? वेदांत पढ़े हैं? How do you like Vedanta? Have you studied Vedanta? And he said, yes, I have read. But here's his objection. He said, see, this is the core objection. He said, बहुत बात करते हैं वो लोग. They talk a lot. अनुभूति नहीं है. They don't have experience. This is the path of experience. I'm trying to get experience. He's right in his own way. But notice the objection. He feels the talking that they do, you're talking a lot, this talking that they do, this is not spiritual practice. After all this, you have to come and sit in a cave and then meditate like that. It's not a bad idea, but that's missing the point. That's missing the point. Both baat karte, they talk a lot, they don't have experience. This is the path of self-enquiry. Not that talking a lot will get you to enlightenment, but this class and listening to the instruction. In fact, in Advaita Vedanta, listening, reflecting, meditating, among these, the most important is listening. There is a doctrine called Shabda Parokshawada. That means direct knowledge comes from listening to the teachings. Direct knowledge comes from listening to the teachings. And then you reflect upon it and meditate upon what you have listened. It's not that reflection, argumentation gets you to enlightenment. It's not even that sitting quietly gets you to enlightenment. It's the teaching itself which will get you to enlightenment. The argumentation, reasoning, and sitting quietly, they work on the listening. So the listening is very important. If your meditation, Advaitic meditation is not working, listen again. If you are getting confused in the reasoning, listen again. Go back to the listening. So anyway, this is the first tier of sadhana, the core. But then what happens here? This is all very well, Swami, but I have been listening since before you were born. I still haven't attained enlightenment. Then Advaita Vedanta says the problem is at another level. There's an outer layer of problems. The outer layer of problem is the mind is unable to grasp it. Sri Ramakrishna, in his presence, there was a lot of discussion of Vedanta going on. He listened quietly without any comment. Discussion going on. And then his only comment at the end was, I'll tell you in Bengali and translate, Kothagulo bhalo, dharana hawa chai. The words, the talk is good, the words are good, but it should be assimilated. This assimilation is not happening. It's not striking, it's not bursting into flame. Why not? So the second level of problem is restless mind. And the solution for restless mind is focused mind, concentrated mind. What is the methodology? Yoga, meditation, focus. So meditation is and the Vedic counterpart would be what is called Upasana. Here both meditation and bhakti are involved here. Both bhakti and meditation focus the mind on our spiritual goal. So we have two layers. One layer is the core, ignorance of my real nature as Brahman. Ramana Maharshi is telling me you are that, and Upanishads are telling me that you are Brahman, Tattvamasi, but I don't know it. So ignorance. Then solution is knowledge, and knowledge comes from Jnana Yoga, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, or in one term, self-inquiry. But that's not working because there's another layer of obstructions which is restless mind. And the solution for restless mind is focused mind. I'm translating from the Sanskrit. Vikshepa is the problem, restlessness. And solution is ekagrata, one-pointedness, focus. And the method is yoga, meditation. Or a little more, there's a term called upasana, which you find in the Vedas. Upasana includes elements of meditation and devotion also, from which two yogas can be traced, Bhakti Yoga and Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, both of which again Ramana will speak about. And then one might say at this point, that also Swamiji, I've been meditating for years and years and years, nothing is happening. My mind is as restless as ever. I fall asleep either if I try for meditation, or I get up and walk away. Either mind becomes more restless or mind becomes sleepy. So it's not working. And it's not our problem only. In the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, you find Sri Krishna teaching Arjuna about meditation. 6th chapter in Bhagavad Gita is about meditation. And Arjuna had the same problem. He says literally to Krishna, what you have taught me is useless. Because he says the mind is restless. The yoga, focus, meditation which you are teaching me, it doesn't work. Mind is restless. And then Krishna gives solutions to it. Abhyasa vairagya. By dispassion and systematic practice, the mind may be brought under control. Vedanta says the reason why the mind doesn't settle down in spiritual path, not only in meditation. See, why meditation, I try meditation, mind is restless. I try bhakti, it becomes mechanical. There is no real love there. People have this objection, it's a bit sorrowful. They say that we have been practicing for many, many years, but honestly, I really don't love Bhagavan. Love for God has been. Some attachment is there, some liking is there, but real pull, devotion, like the great devotees, it's not there. Well, at least this much is there. We can all confirm this much is there for anybody who is here. The complaint was, I really don't want God. But this much is there for all of us. We want to want God. That much everybody will raise the hand and say, yes, that's there. I want to want. I want to feel that devotion. Why it is not there? Why devotion is mechanical, it is not coming? Why meditation is not working, it's restless? So the third level of problems which they point out is, the Vedanta will point out is, that the mind is impure. We have polluted the mind throughout this life and many lifetimes past. So the problem is of impure mind. And the solution is a no-brainer. If the problem is impure mind, solution will be pure mind. I'm translating from impure mind in Sanskrit is chitta mala, and pure mind is chitta shuddhi, purified mind. How do you purify the mind? The purified mind, karma yoga, spiritualization of our action. Spiritualization of our action. What is spiritualization of action? It has two steps in it. Two steps to it. First is ethical action. So clean up our life. To do, what is unethical, to stop that in our life. What I know, myself, my conscience tells me it is not right. To stop that. And one good way is to see the general morality in society. What is considered as moral, what is considered as immoral, and see whether I am at least fulfilling that standard. So, dharma, honesty, self-control. So these things, selflessness. No, selflessness will come next. So this is the first level of karma yoga, that is dharmic action. Move from adharma to dharma. But adharma to dharma is still worldly. See, this is what the sages were stuck at, what Shiva instructed them. What were the sages trying to do? They were trying to get some special worldly achievements and other worldly achievements, some special powers in which they could become more powerful than everybody else. That's still worldly. They were dharmic, they were good people. They were leading an austere Vedic, practicing Vedic sacrifices, austere lifestyle, but that was not spiritual. So, next, from dharmic action, from adharmic action to dharmic action, when it becomes spiritual, when that dharmic action, that karma, which is done a moral karma, now becomes karma yoga. How do you convert ethical action into spiritual action? Where it is now no longer done for selfish ends. It's done with a selfless attitude. One powerful way of making it selfless is to do all one's work as worship of God. To do all one's work as worship of God. The Lord pervades this entire universe. Whatever we are doing in the presence of God. It is not an imagination that if I try to mentally say I wish to do this, you say Sri Krishna Arpanamastu, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu, I am offering to God. Whatever work. So the puja is done that way. All ritualistic action, if I do it, it can be done in two ways. One is, I am doing the puja, I am doing the ritual, but I want something out of it. I want wealth out of it, success out of it, or spiritual powers out of it, and telepathy or flying in the air or whatever, or success in life. So I am using God for furthering my worldly goals, or other worldly goals. After death I will go to heaven. All of that is worldly or otherworldly. But spiritual is when my puja, my worship is for God. I am here because I love God. What do I want from God? Nothing. Then it becomes karma yoga. Same action. So the ritualistic puja becomes karma yoga. It can be karma, but it can become karma yoga if it is done without selfish pursuits. What Krishna did was, his revolution was that he made it possible in the Bhagavad Gita, not only the ritualistic actions which you do in the Vedic Yajnashala, the Vedic fire sacrifice, or in your temple or shrine, but also every action that we do in life. Krishna said, the daily actions that we perform in our personal life, family life, and your profession, that can become karma yoga. That's what he taught Arjuna. In the Bhagavad Gita, one central message is that the thing that we perform as your duty, your profession, can you convert it into spiritual practice? That is karma yoga. You can do that as a worship of God. And certainly if Arjuna could convert it, his most awful duty of fighting a war, into spiritual practice, then everything that we do at home or in job, we can convert into karma yoga. It becomes selfless action. So from dharmic action, but selfish, to karma yoga, which is selfless. And goes further in this day and age when, I think the next revolution was when Vivekananda converted karma yoga into not only the ritualistic action done for this worship of God, not only your own duties done as a worship of God, but social action, the service, as Vivekananda put it, my God the poor, My God, the sick. My God, the wicked. So those who need service, God in that form is served through service of humanity. That's beyond your duty. See the revolutions. First, the rituals which were there in the Vedas, perform them selflessly as worship of God without asking for any worldly or otherworldly goal. That was the first revolution. Because if you see, go to the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, what does it say? Do this yajna, you will get this result. You want wealth, you do this yajna. You want to win a kingdom, you do this yajna. You want to have rainfall, do this yajna. You want to go to heaven, do this yajna. Swarga kamo yajeta. The Veda says, those who desire Swarga, heaven, perform this yajna, this fire sacrifice. So that was the instruction. The revolution was, you don't want that. You perform these as worship of God, not wanting anything other than God. That was the first step. And that's the basis of our pujas which we do. As spiritual practitioners, why do you do those rituals? You want the general blessings of God, that's perfect. But really what you want, devotion to God. Out of devotion you are doing it. Then the second revolution was brought about by Krishna. Not just the rituals. How many of us are pujaris in a temple? Most of engaged, and the time and energy spent in the professions that you are undergoing. You're taking up. Energy is taken up there. How to spiritualize your daily life. So that was the next revolution. Krishna did that. Sri Krishna, he taught your day-to-day activities can be performed as karma yoga. And then comes, I would say, in this day and age, transforming beyond our personal duties, the social action of serving the poor, the formula of Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. All sentient beings are to be worshipped in the knowledge that Shiva, the God alone dwells. Worship of God in all human beings. That is the next revolution. These are all karma yoga. It's all karma yoga. Good. So these are the sadhanas which Ramana Maharshi will speak about. Let me now draw in your mind. I have drawn actually a matrix. Let me just repeat it. You will see. It will become a clear thing. 3 columns and 3 rows. So, at the bottom, the outermost layer, problem is impure mind. In Sanskrit, chittamala. Chittamala, impure mind. At this point, one thing is impure mind. How do I know my mind is impure? You are maligning me. I'll sue you. How dare you say that? Try meditation. I'm sitting here. I have decided I will repeat Om Namah Shivaya or some other mantra, and I will repeat it, or I will simply follow the breath. That's all. I will do that. And I have decided. Within 5 seconds, 10 seconds, my mind is wandering here and there. Why? It's my mind. I have decided. Why is the mind wandering? It's because of so much of the conditioning of the mind, negativities and impurities stuffed into the mind, worries, anxieties, irritation, guilt, resentment, all of that poured into the mind. And likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. The mind is pulled this way and that way. No matter what we intend, the mind is pulled this way and that way. That is a sign of impurity, sure sign of impurity in the mind, the inability to focus. So the first layer of this matrix, the bottom row is impure mind, chittamala in Sanskrit. Solution, that's the problem. Solution is pure mind, chitta shuddhi. Method or sadhana is karma yoga. And that includes all of that which I've said about karma yoga. Karma yoga. So you have bottom row, problem, impure mind. Solution, pure mind. Method, karma yoga. Then go to the middle row or the inner problem. Inner problem, restless mind. In Sanskrit, chitta vikshepa. Chitta vikshepa. Solution, focused mind. In Sanskrit, chitta ekagrata. Ekagrata, one-pointedness. Chitta ekagrata. Method is yoga, meditation. But here I will include both bhakti and dhyana. Both will come in there. And then the next level problem, so the core, the top row is what is the problem, what is the solution, what is the method. Problem, ignorant mind, ajnana. Solution, knowledge, jnana. Method, jnana yoga, shravanam, manana, nididhyasana. Equivalent to the Atma Vichara, self-enquiry, which Ramana Maharshi speaks about in this book. So that's a sketch of, if you have got it right, you will have a 3x3 matrix. On 3 levels of problems, innermost to outermost, and 3 problem, solution, method. You see, karma, bhakti, dhyana and jnana, they work on different paradigms. I just mentioned this and then go into this. Different paradigms or different principles. What do I mean by that? The bhakti paradigm is paradigm of spirituality. Bhakti paradigm is God exists, the problem is you don't have faith or belief in God. Solution is to have faith or belief in God. So God exists, we don't have faith. We listen to too much Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins and so that I can't believe in God. And the solution is to somehow get faith, belief, love, ultimately surrender to God. This is the methodology. A problem there, if you want to find a problem there will be skepticism. So it's always possible to doubt the existence of God. That's why in dualistic religions, theistic religions, always there's a question of doubt. Whether it is in Christianity, you will find, I think St. Thomas Aquinas, before that also, St. Augustine probably, 5 proofs of the existence of God. So when you're struggling to prove the existence of something, that means there's always possibility of doubt. And you will find in the lives of the saints that they doubted. Even quite advanced level of practice over many years, suddenly doubt comes. Am I praying to something which doesn't exist? Especially if you listen to, in this day and age, in the age of science and reason, I say, if somebody is little too superstitious, too much, a lot of jumble in the mind, good way of coming to Advaita is to first purge your mind. So listen to a good, solid few hours of Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris. Clear your mind of all sorts of vague beliefs and ideas and superstitions and all that. Flush your mind of all that. It can be devastating to dualistic religion, that kind of critique. That's the problem. It can be doubted. The existence of God can be doubted. You find that same thing in Hinduism. The dualistic religions, the Naiyayikas, the great Naiyayika Udayanacharya, he has 9 proofs of the existence of God. Where did that come from? It's because they were engaged in a near 1,000-year debate with the Buddhists. A 1,000-year debate. The Buddhists doubt. You Hindus, you believe in God. What God? So there's a book, if you read Professor Parimal Patil, who is here in Harvard, right here. He's the head, he teaches Indian philosophy at the philosophy department. His book, Against a Hindu God. So the Buddhist arguments against God in Hinduism. It's a very dense book. Against a Hindu God. Nearly 1,000 years of debate. You Hindus believe in an immortal soul, Atma. There's no such thing. You Hindus believe in Ishvara, Bhagavan. There's no such thing. So huge debate. And on the side of the Hindus, they were the Naiyayikas, the Nyaya philosophers. Our Advaita Vedanta is what they call a Johnny come lately. Much later. In the more ancient debates, you see hardly it is there. It's much later. After Gaudapada, Shankara, you see the presence of. By that time, the Buddhist schools had more or less matured. And within a century or two, they were gone from India. But the main debate took place between the various Buddhist acharyas, and on the Hindu side, there were the Naiyayikas, there were Sankhyas, there were Purva Mimamsakas, especially Kumarila Bhatta. So anyway, the whole problem was, I doubt the existence of God. That's the problem with the Bhakti approach. There can be doubt. There can be serious doubt about it. In contrast to the Bhakti approach is the Yoga approach. In contrast, see, these are the important things to get in mind. You see the different paradigms of spiritual life. The yogic paradigm is different. They are not saying, no, you don't have to believe in God. They are not saying that you have to believe in God. They say, no, you don't have to believe in God. It's not a question of belief. Look, experience. You will experience it. So that was Vivekananda's very powerful call to people. When he came to this country, if God exists, I should be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I should be able to feel it. The call to experience, he realized that this is an empirical age. And that was his mind also. Because he went around in Calcutta as a young man, Narendranath Datta, asking this question. That, have you seen God? Have you seen God? And finally he found an answer from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who became his guru later. That yes, I have seen God. Just as I see you, in fact more clearly than I see you. Not that you're suffering from cataracts, but there was a principle there that it's a much more, you see, the world is an experience. We take it as real. This is real. God experience is more real than this. So, yes, mystical experience of God is possible. The yogi tells you, I will teach you. You sit like this, breathe like this, focus like this, meditate like this, and you will get an extraordinary experience. What is that called? Mystical experience. You will have a vision of God in some form or the other. Or your self-realization. You will experience yourself as being beyond the mind. In Patanjali Yoga, that's the goal. But in other forms of yoga, you can have visions of the deity. So Sri Ramakrishna had a vision, multiple visions of Kali, the Divine Mother. So that's the claim, that's the yogic path. Against the devotional dualistic path of bhakti. See, I'm drawing a big picture here. If someone might ask, so in bhakti path there is no experience? There is. In Hinduism is all through and through the path of experience. All the great bhaktas, Mirabai and all, did they not experience it? Of course they experienced. But that's at the end. You can't start by doubting it. Bhakti will not start if you start with skepticism. No bhakti path can start with skepticism. You must start with faith. But the yogic path starts with not faith or skepticism. It starts with practice. You will keep on practicing this way, you will experience. Here also, so this is a yogic path. Example, if you ask example is Patanjali Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and there are multiple paths. There's Kundalini Yoga, multiple paths where you are taught a method and you practice it, and there are certain experiences you will have at the end of that practice which will prove to you the validity of the claims of religion, that God exists or you are the self or whatever. What problem is there if you're looking for problems? What problem can there be? There can be a problem. What is the problem that mystics throughout the ages have faced? People have said you're crazy. Sri Ramakrishna, people thought he is the mad Brahmin of the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. You're seeing God, you're mad. You're not a mystic or realized person, you're just mad, plain mad. Throughout the history of religions, in every religion, those were mystics. They'll always have their critics who will say that these people are crazy, just mad. And today you have a more refined form of that. It's called a neuroscientist. your doctor, the neurologist will say that, not that you are mad, they'll never say that. Now that term is not allowed. It's now called neurodiverse. You are neurodiverse. But what they will say is, look, we don't doubt that you are having an experience, something extraordinary. But that experience is not because you are seeing God or you are actually one with the universe. It's because you have had a stroke in some part of the brain. Some aneurysm is there, clot is there. There was this lady who was a neuroscientist. It was huge, one of the most popular TED Talks and a book afterwards she wrote. She was a neuroscientist, she had a stroke. And because she was a trained doctor, either a scientist or a neurologist, one of the two, and she knew what was happening. And because of that, she felt a sense of expansiveness, one with the universe, and so on and so forth. But that is not spiritual. That is just medical damage in your brain. Or somebody might say that you are high on, if you're especially in New York, Manhattan, around this time, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you go to Central Park, many people are having spiritual experience. So that is the criticism of, if you want to prove that, God exists, or I am Brahman, or it's all one non-dual reality, the reply will be, you experience it that way, that does not make it true. In contrast to this, we are coming to the Advaitic paradigm, where not a question of belief, not a question of believing in something, rather your own existence. It is beyond all, we don't have to believe in it. Nobody doubts their own existence. See, there are struggles to prove the existence of God. There are no struggles to prove the existence of yourself. Nobody doubts it seriously. So, it is not a question of believing in something. It's a question of investigating your own existence. That is self-knowledge, self-inquiry. It is also not a question of mystical, extraordinary experiences. Many people don't understand that. It is quotidian, something that's directly available to us. There was a coffee shop, Le Pain Quotidien. I used to think, what does it mean? And then I looked it up. Quotidien means daily. And the word P-A-I-N, Le Pain means bread. So it's from the Christian prayer, give us this day our daily bread. So quotidian experience means everybody has this experience. For Advaita Vedanta, all that you need, the experience of your own existence, the experience of being awake, dreaming, deep sleep. That's enough. The experience of having a body and a mind. That's enough. If you have experienced being awake, if you have experienced being, sleeping and dreaming, if you have experienced deep sleep, you can start avasthatraya vichara, inquiry into the three states of the mind, waking, dreaming and deep sleep. If you have experienced physical body here and breathing, all are breathing, it's a good idea to breathe. And if you have experienced mind and emotions, enough, you can start your Panchakosha vichara, which here Ramana Maharshi will do. Panchakosha vichara, you can start. If you have the experience of subject-object, I am the subject and this is the object, who does not have it? Everybody has it. Enough, you can start the method of Drigdrishya Viveka. All these Advaitic inquiry, self-inquiry paths, they do not want any kind of extraordinary mystical experience. Your daily experience which everybody has. See, why are mystics criticized? Why do people call mystics crazy or high or stroke or whatever? Because it is what they are talking about, it's not a common experience. If you see the description of Sri Ramakrishna talking to his divine mother Kali, very sublime description is there. But notice something, only he is talking and he is seeing. The people in the room who are there, they are feeling a great uplift and emotional, spiritual emotion and all of that, but they are not seeing. That's why it can be doubted. Immediately we doubt because it's not a shared experience. But Advaita Vedanta requires only a shared experience. Seer and seen, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, everybody has it. Body, mind, everybody has it. That's enough. So these are different paradigms. The paradigm in Advaita Vedanta is, problem is ignorance, solution is knowledge. The problem in the yogic path is, the problem is restless mind, solution is focused mind. The paradigm in bhakti is, problem is your lack of faith and solution is faith or love in God. This is the different paradigms. In Karma Yoga paradigm, the problem is selfishness and the correction is selflessness. Vivekananda, they alone live who live for others, and the rest are more dead than alive. What is he doing? The instinctive way is to live for yourself. And Vivekananda is saying, Karma Yoga is saying that you are making a big mistake. Your whole life is testament to the fact that you're making a mistake because you're not happy after having lived for yourself and for those of who you consider to be mine for years and decades. Are you fulfilled? Are you at peace? Are you enlightened? No. But then you reverse it, counterintuitive. You live for others rather than for yourself. Good. This is the background. Let me quickly sweep through the first few verses of Upadesa Saram. You have the PDF, or some of you have already got the text. Nowadays a new edition is available of Tejomayanji's translation, yes. So the first verse is, Remember the background. The rishis were engaged in Vedic ritualism to get worldly and otherworldly powers, and Shiva is scolding them. This is not the way to freedom, enlightenment, joy, peace. No, this will not work. That's where Ramana Maharshi starts. So Ramana Maharshi is teaching. Just start with verse number 1. I'll just read out the Sanskrit and give you a on the fly, quick translation. And we will catch it now, because now we have the background. You keep the 3x3 matrix in your mind. So the verse 1, Karturagnyaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tad jadam. So, karma, you think that you will do some action and get some result. You will do some ritual and you will get some result. That is inert, that is insentient, all that is under the control of Ishvara or Bhagavan. Your attention is on the karma and its result. The problem is you do something and it is limited results. And you can be caught in this forever. And you are missing the fact that it is insentient, it is jada, it is beyond that, God is in charge, this is some supreme power in charge of karma. The second verse makes it clear. This is a criticism of the being trapped in ritualistic action for its own sake, for the sake of fulfilling worldly goals. Second verse. You're with me, those who have got it?
Yes.
Kriti mahodadhu patana karanam phalam ashashvatam gati nirodhakam. Very beautiful. See, the Sanskrit here is very simple and very compressed and very sweet. But he has poured the essence of each path, especially you will see later on, essence of Advaita Vedanta you will find in the last 15 verses or so. So here he says, it's an ocean. Once you jump into this ocean of action, patana karanam, it will suck you in, you will fall away from spiritual life. He points out the defects. Phalam ashashvatam. Whatever you do in this life, whatever action you do, action is limited, its result will be limited. No matter what great ritual you perform, what great good activities you perform, it will give rise to a limited result and soon it will be exhausted. It's finished. Ashashvatam, limited, not eternal. The nature of ritualistic action, the whole goal in the Vedic times was if you do this, you will go to heaven. Why would you want to go to heaven? The Vedic heavens, there are multiple heavens. The Vedic heavens are places of enjoyment, of pleasure. Just as this life is, only better. There, everything works perfectly. You don't get old. You don't get sick. Or if you get sick, no, you don't get sick. So you don't have insurance problems. Everything is, whatever you want is immediately fulfilled. Although here also Amazon Prime is doing that. So all of that you get in heaven. Perfect. What could get wrong? What could be wrong? Ashashvatam. It will come to an end. We had a Swamiji, Swami, I'm forgetting the name. He was in South Africa. Nishrey Sanandji. So there's a very nice story. He used to explain these concepts with nice stories. I've never met him. This was before my time, but I've read these stories. So he explained this concept. What is this Vedic ritualism? What does it do? This going to heaven business, and what is the problem with it? He said, see, when I come to India, to Mumbai, I fly with Air India from, I think at that time from Durban. So I purchase a ticket, and then I come to the airport, and there are these air hostesses who tell me, come, this is your seat. Those who have read Vedas, ehi iti, some divine beings will come after death to the person who has done Vedic ritualism, and they will say, come here, this is the heaven that you have earned with your rituals, with your great good karma. So he is making a play on that. He says the air hostesses are there, and they are saying, come, this is the seat which you have earned, and which your ticket has gone. Then you will sit there, and then you will fly at 40,000 feet in the air, heaven, and then they will show you a movie. In those days, there used to be a big screen, it seems, in the middle of the aisle, and you could see a movie. They would not be individual. And then they will come and give you food and drink, and it is cool and perfect temperature, and you relax, you don't have to do anything. And then What happens? You really like it, and then it lands, and then the captain says, "Thank you for flying with Air India. We have reached Mumbai. Outside temperature is 100 Fahrenheit, 100 degrees, 100% humidity. Thank you for flying with Air India." You will say, "No, I want to stay here." No, you cannot. You have to buy another ticket and come back again. So heaven is like that. Phalam ashashvatam. And it is the nature of all enjoyment. Whatever enjoyment you get in this life also, whatever you work hard for and purchase, that will be exhausted very soon. Not only will it be exhausted, it gives a limited amount of pleasure, a limited amount of joy. The first lesson of economics, law of diminishing marginal utility. We learned every unit of consumption, every cookie you eat, first cookie very nice, second cookie nice, third cookie okay, fourth cookie no. If force feed, you'll feel like throwing up. So diminishing marginal utility. All pleasures are like that, and also they are habit forming. You want more and more of that, more variety of more expensive, latest, more refined variety of that. I remember I went to this devotee's house. It was in a country, not here in the United States. So they had this little granddaughter, and the room was full, the house was full of all kinds of very expensive, nice toys. The child would play with one, throw it away, play with another, throw it away, not interested, would cry. And so many expensive toys. And brought to my mind the figure of a little kid I had seen with wearing torn pants and a ragged shirt on the side of a street in India. Many of you would have seen, with a little old cycle wheel and running with that and shouting with joy and laughter. See, one toy, which is a rough thing, a crude rough thing, but full of joy about it. And you have got so many of such wonderful toys, not happy anymore. It's that law of diminishing marginal utility. More and more, but no happiness. And finally, great problem, Gati Nirodhakam. It stops your spiritual evolution. You get stuck in this ritualistic action, trying to enjoy life here in heaven, and again, buy the Air India ticket and again and then to go to the flight. It's no progress, spiritual progress is not there. You're caught in this whirlwind. Then what do you do with karma? The third verse. Ishwararpitam nechhaya kritam chitta shodhakam mukti sadhakam. Same karma you can do, instead of trying to do it for a little bit of personal pleasure or personal gain, you do it as a worship of God. It's my duty. This is the puja that has been given to me by God. The job, the family, whatever, wherever we are, whoever we are with, whatever job we have got, no matter how awful, like Arjuna complained about his job, but that we can do as a worship of God. Ishwararpitam. Na ichchaya kritam. Not because I like it, I am doing it. Earlier, I like it, I am doing it. That was the logic. Now, or you can say for the welfare of everybody. If you don't want to bring the God word into it, like Vivekananda said, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. This is Ishwararpitam. You can say as a worship of God. Or Sri Ramakrishna said, the Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. Serve all sentient beings, knowing them to be God. What does it do? See, remember that matrix. Chitta Shodhakam, it purifies the mind. Mukti Sadhakam, and it helps you on your spiritual journey towards freedom. Freedom from what? Remember, freedom from sorrow and suffering and limitation, and attainment of lasting fulfillment. Next is Bhakti Yoga. So you can see where we are going from that lower rung of the matrix to the next rung. Kaya Vangmana Karyam Uttamam Pujanam Japaschintanam Kramat. Bhakti, practices of bhakti you can do physically, verbally, mentally. Physically you can do ritualistic action. You can do a puja, offer flowers. And verbally you can chant and pray. Mentally you can think about God. So he says pujanam, puja. Then japa. Take up a mantra, the name of God, and repeat it. Repetition is the essence of japa. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Ram, 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 Ram. Repeat it. Then deeper, at the mental level, keep the mind on God, on the form of God, on the Leela of God, on the play of God, and so on. And he says these are sequentially better than the earlier one. The physical puja is good. Higher than that is the verbal chanting of, chant hymns or do the japa. And higher than that is mentally keeping your mind on God. This keeping your mind on God becomes meditation eventually. All our work can be done as service of God. Fifth verse. Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrit Deva Pujanam. Now you serve the word Ishadhi, knowing it to be the Lord alone. The Lord alone is present in all beings, and I am serving the world in that way. Ashtamurti Bhrit, this is Ashtamurti basically is the cosmic form in 8 forms. The 5 elements and then the constellations, which is sun and moon and the sentient beings, all of that. The entire cosmos is a form of God. Ashtamurti Bhrit, Deva Pujanam. So God not only in the form of my Krishna or Rama, but as this cosmos. God as this cosmos. And I love, revere, and I worship by service. This is also a higher form of bhakti. Next. 6th. Uttamastavar Uchamandata Uttamastavat Uchamandata Chittajam Japa Dhyanam Uttamam. Stava, you chant a hymn to Krishna, Shiva, Rama, Devi. So Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama. So that's one level of puja. Next level is japa. And this japa can be done at 3 levels. Japa means repetition of the mantra. You can do the japa muttering it softly. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Ram, 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 like that. Or you can do it silently but the lips are moving. Or you can do it entirely in your mind. And each one is superior to the earlier one. So when you do it loudly means softly, but you're actually pronouncing the words. That's one level. You're not pronouncing the words, but the lips may be moving. And lips are not moving, it's just entirely in the mind. Entirely in the mind is the best japa. And that japa will merge into dhyana uttamam. That is, meditation is deeper and higher than japa. 7th verse. Ajyadharaya shrotasa samam sarala chintanam viralatah param. So, this thought of God, so you're repeating the name of Rama, but then the form of Rama, the presence of Rama in your heart, if you're focused on it, it's called Ishta Devata, God in a chosen deity, and you feel the presence of it continuously without interruption. And he gives the example of oil or ghee being poured in a continuous stream. See how the ghee or the oil is poured, it looks like a dense stream without interruption. So thought can be like that, without interruption. That is the best meditation on God. In verse 8, Bheda bhavana soham ityaso bhavana bhida pavani mata. Meditating on God can be dualistic. I am visualizing the form of Rama or Krishna in my heart. Or I and my beloved are one. Ramana Maharshi considers that a higher meditation. This is all bhakti yoga, higher and higher, deeper and deeper stages of bhakti. And it can be achieved through love. Sheer love, you feel oneness with the beloved. Number 9. Bhava shunya sad bhava sustiti bhavana balad bhakti ruttama. The best bhakti is when the mind becomes one with the Ishta Devata and no other thoughts interrupt. Bhavana, bhava shunya sad bhava sustiti. You feel the presence of the deity stably, living presence, and no other thoughts interrupt. And this can be done through bhakti. This is deep meditation, but through bhakti, through love it has come. 10th verse is nice. It shows that this abidance in your real nature, the Atman, this is the goal of all the yogas. So, Ritstale Manaha, for important terminology, for Ramana Maharshi, ultimate reality, self, Atman, Brahman, pure consciousness, he has one word for it, heart. heart. Not the physical heart, not the emotional heart. You, the real you, your essence, what we really are. He calls it the heart, hridaya or rit. Ritstale mana swasthata kriya bhakti yoga bodhascha nishchita. Ritstale mana swasthata. When the mind abides in the heart. Mind abiding in the heart is what Advaita Vedanta calls the realization of Aham Brahmasmi. That I am Brahman. Unshakably so, it's clear. This knowledge becomes clear. This is the whole purpose of Kriya, Karma Yoga, Bhakti, Bhakti Yoga, Yoga, that is meditation, Jnana Yoga, Bodha, Advaita Jnana. All of them, this absolutely certain, unflickering settling of the mind on your real nature. This is the goal of all the yogas. It's a valuable verse, 10th verse. Then 11th, 12th and so on, here he talks about Patanjali Yoga, meditation, not through devotion, but the meditation itself where the Chitta Vritti Nirodha. You stop the functioning of the mind. Yes, I'm thinking about God, my Rama, my Krishna, my Devi. I'm thinking about that. Stop that also. Even the highest, most sublime, beautiful thoughts, stop that also. You are not the mind. Mind doesn't have to keep on chattering. Just because I have legs, I don't have to keep on running around. Just because I have hands, I don't have to keep holding things. I remember one Charlie Chaplin movie, I think Modern Times or something, where he was a factory worker. And his job was to tighten the bolt on one assembly. So one item would keep coming on the assembly line, and his job was just, he had a wrench, that's all he had. Whole day he would just do this. And he will go on, the next one will come, and the bolt he will tighten. Whole day. Lunch break also, then he can't stop doing. He keeps on doing it. And then the shop floor manager, the foreman comes and big guy comes and shouts at him. Like, a silent movie, so he's scolding him, what are you doing? And he twists the man's nose also like this. So just because I have a mind should not go on chattering. Mind should not go on chattering. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Then what will happen? Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. You, the witness consciousness, will be revealed in your real nature. When the mind is quietened, you will see yourself as beyond the mind, as the unflickering consciousness. So there, verses 11 to 14. Vayurodhanat liyate mana jala pakshivat rodha sadhanam. One important method is pranayama. This is 11th verse. Pranayama means control of the breath. So where did the breath suddenly come in? The yogis, the Patanjali yogis, they discovered mind and breath are closely connected. So when we are angry, you will see breath is faster. When we are sick or sleepy, you will see breath is heavy. And will always be on the left nostril. And excited and restless, right nostril. Of course, if you have a cold, don't take it. It will not work. If you're sick, for example, left nostril generally. It's interesting. And when the mind is calm and focused, like deep study or just calm, you're watching nature, both nostrils. So there's the interesting things linked with the breath. Rhythmic, deep breathing calms down the mind. They found a causation other way around. Their aim is to quieten the mind. Quieten the mind is not so easy. So they found if you take hold of the breath, you can actually quieten the mind. To the point of silencing the mind in samadhi through pranayama. This is what he's pointing towards. Then 12th verse. Chittavayavas chit kriya yutaha shakhayo dvaya shakti mulaka. Why? Why is the breath connected with the mind? Because he says these are two forces which have come from the same source, from God alone, from or Maya Shakti. One is Jnana Shakti, represented by the mind. Another one is Kriya Shakti, represented by the prana or breath. One can control the other. 13th. Laya vinashane ubhayo rodhane layagatam punar bhavati no mritam. So, when the mind is destroyed or the mind is absorbed, in both cases the mind is silenced. Only that this absorbed mind, which is stopped with the help of control of the breath. So control of the breath basically, three parts are there in the word breathing. Breathing in, Puraka, holding the breath, Kumbhaka, and leaving the breath, Rechaka. And the pranayama, what they do is, they have variety of techniques and timings and rhythms about breathing in, how much count breathe in, how many counts to hold the breath, and how many counts to let go of the breath. So the basic ratio is 4 counts breathing in, 12 counts holding the breath, and 8 counts letting go of the breath. And then again, repeat. Now, don't start doing it. This requires a yoga teacher to teach you. And I have seen literally, I have myself seen, a friend of mine, people have gone crazy. They have lost mental balance, they have physically become ill if you overdo these things, especially the holding of the breath part. Much easier is simple rhythmic breathing. Not force anything, just let the in-breath come in, out-breath go out. No holding of the breath. And that also will focus the mind. In fact, in one place, Ramana Maharshi recommends that. Vikshana, prana vikshana, that is breathing, just observe the breathing. And resist the temptation to take charge of the breathing. The breathing is more superior to you, more competent than us. It has been going on happily without our interference. Breathing will tell you we don't need you around. So let's watch it. Even if it's irregular, even if the breaths are not of the same length or whatever, let's just watch it. And the whole thing is not about breathing, the whole thing is calming the mind down. So he says this here. He makes a distinction between the controlled mind, stilled mind through control of breath, and the destroyed mind, quote unquote destroyed, vinasha. I'll go to the 14th verse and stop, because there's a transition to Advaita Vedanta here, which although this is under the Raja Yoga or the Patanjali Yoga section, Ashtanga Yoga section, if you see in the textbook which you have got, but actually here's a transition. Important Advaitic concept is there which we will take up. What is meant by destruction of the mind, manonasha, not what you would think. 14th verse, prana bandhanat leena manasam ekachintana nashametyadaha. If you do pranayama, the mind will become absorbed for a time. It will again come back, like a spring which you put a weight on, take out this weight and the spring will bounce back again. But ekachintana, by focused one-pointed meditation, the mind will be destroyed. That means absorbed in samadhi, in the yogic sense. But the mind will be destroyed in the Advaitic sense, is what is called mithyatva nishchayaha or badha, the sublation or the knowing that the mind itself is not an entity. It's an appearance of you, the consciousness. It's an emanation from you, the Atman. It's an appearance of the Atman. It's not real in itself. Once you realize the falsity of the mind, the appearance nature of the mind, then even the necessity of even controlling it or doing something to it or stopping it, not necessary anymore. Because the moment you say destruction of the mind, what happens is, people think, oh, the mind will be destroyed. I can't think, will I become brainless after this? Mindless after becoming enlightened? No. That doesn't make sense. I mean, so now, unfortunate use of the term manonasha, we will see in depth tomorrow what it means. Because if it is destruction of the mind, then how do we see in enlightened people that clearly they seem to be walking around, talking, seeing, they seem to recognize you, memory is functioning, decision making is functioning, intelligence, more than others also. And why should it be? Is the body gone after enlightenment? Body is still there. Is the breathing stopped after enlightenment? The person is still breathing. Is the eating and walking stopped? No. Everything is going on. Every organ is functioning. Why suddenly mind should be stopped? Mind should stop functioning? No, it's not that. That's not the meaning. Every faculty is retained. But something happens. That the falsity of the mind is recognized. I am not the mind and the mind is not a reality. These two things are recognized. That is called destruction of the mind. This problem is there in Buddhism also. Here at Harvard, Divinity School, I'll say this and stop. We're discussing at this point, when you become a Buddha, there are any number of descriptions of the omniscience of the Buddha. What does the Buddha know? At the same time, it is also shown that the world is falsity. All that we know is false. It is not reality. So Buddha, because the Buddha can only see the truth, the Buddha will not see all this. At the same time, you are saying Buddha is omniscient, all-knowing. Then what is it that the Buddha knows? And so Professor Garfield used to teach us, he used the term, brainstem Buddha. Has the Buddha been reduced to a brainstem, comatose, deep coma, brain damage? Is that enlightenment? No, it cannot be that. So in what sense manonasha, destruction of the mind? That's where we will start tomorrow. Let me do a peace chant and then we'll take some questions. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Good. Just raise your hand, and in fact we need not even do the microphone thing. I'll repeat the question because we don't have too much time.
Okay.
Raise your gentleman there. Yeah, tell us your name and ask the question.
Namaste Swami. I'm Pradeep Deval.
Yes, please sit.
The question is with listening, reflecting, and meditating on the meaning, there is an understanding developed.
Yes.
But what is the difference between understanding and knowledge?
All right. So the question asked is, listening, reflecting, and meditating, a certain understanding is developed. But what is the difference between understanding and knowledge? Knowledge here you mean that ultimate knowledge, realization, enlightenment. What is the difference? There is a difference. There is a difference. Let me put it very briefly. That knowledge or that understanding which you get after hearing, reflecting, meditating, that alone deepens into enlightenment. So that understanding itself deepens into enlightenment. It's not that a new separate kind of sudden flash or experience comes. That deepens. Why? Because this knowledge or understanding which you get is about yourself. If it was about something else, suppose I want to know, tomorrow we are going to go to a nice park. So we have heard about it from Prabodhji. There's a nice park near the development here. So near the community is a very nice park here. But we have heard about it. And if we hear more about it, if we Google it, you can see the images, our understanding becomes more and more. But still it's not a direct experience. Tomorrow when we go and see it, we'll have a direct experience. That's because the park is something different from us. But if the knowledge is about ourselves, if the teaching is about ourselves, as we gain understanding and knowledge, so we are gaining the experience also. It's going together. Because we are always experiencing ourselves. Experiencing quote unquote, not as an object of experience. I am, I, me, myself. And if you have revealed something new about me, that should become obvious to me directly. I shouldn't have to go anywhere and do something else to get it. Let me put it this way. You all know the story of the 10th man. So 10th man, the story where the people went on a journey and they crossed the river and there were 10 of them. And they thought that have we all crossed or did somebody die? Did somebody drown? Let us count. And then one of them counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He didn't count himself. So he counted the other people and he found there were 9 and they all started weeping. Our friend, the 10th man, has drowned. Then some passerby came and said, it's a classic old story, that why are you crying? Oh, our friend, the 10th man, has drowned. And he saw there were 10 people. And he said, the 10th man is there. Where? Show us. Well, count. We have counted, sir. Oh, count again, humor me. And they counted, that one person counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that passerby took his hand and turned it around and said, you are the 10th. 10. Dashamastvamasi, thou art the 10th. And this man goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I'm the 10th. The 10th man has been found. The 10th man is alive. And they all tried it. Let me try. They all found the 10th man. Now, see, the teaching itself and the understanding of the teaching itself was enough for them to discover. Because it is about me. I am the 10th man. No further teaching is necessary. If at that point he had said, I understand intellectually what you are telling me, that I am the 10th man, but I still can't find. Tell me how to experience the 10th man. What will you say to him? What will you say? You'll say you're beyond help. So, I am the 10th man. When I understand the instruction, the experience of that, realization of that comes along with it. If it does not come along with it, then some problem is there. If suppose you say you count, I will show you the 10th man, and that man starts counting 1, 4, 3, 7. You don't know how to count. Then it will not work. I have to teach you how to count first. Or he starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, the 10th man is steady. His mind is so full of sorrow, he can't even finish counting. He has to calm down the mind. Calm down. And then only he will be able to apply it. So those problems have to be removed. If he can understand the instruction and do the counting, he will realize he is the 10th man. Similarly, all the Advaitic teachings, Drigdrishya, Viveka, Panchakosha, which he will do, all of them are just like that, counting and finding yourself as the 10th man. Nothing more is necessary.
Essentially, all the obstructions to the jnana are removed, then jnana appears.
Yes. Obstructions are what? If obstructions to jnana are removed, jnana appears. Obstructions are what? Impurity of mind, removed by purity, developed by karma yoga. Restlessness of mind, removed by concentration, developed by meditation, dhyana, and bhakti also. And then ignorance, removed by the Vedantic teachings, the self-inquiry, knowledge arises. That's it. You realize you are Brahman, you are the 10th man. I am Brahman, or Aham Brahmasmi. Yes.
So Swamiji, that's a beautiful story. But how did they know they were 10th men? So they counted it before?
Or maybe their mom told them, who knows?
Before they...
See, the question there is, if they counted before, then did they forget to count? Don't do that, because the stories are just meant to illustrate one point. See, Ramakrishna used to say, Upama Akdeshi. Upama means an analogy, is meant to prove only one point. So the man is as brave as a lion. What does it mean that lion is brave? That does not mean he goes around on all fours and jumps on people and... Yes.
So my name is Darius, and if you recognize that you are Brahman,
Yes.
as is everybody else, where do you draw the line between serving yourself and serving, because you're also Brahman, so you can serve yourself.
True.
So at what point do you say, well, maybe instead of enjoying my life, I'll go serve others? That's one question. I have
Yes.
several questions for you, but that's one.
All right. So if the question is, if I realize I am Brahman, immediately I would also realize everybody else, all are Brahman. So where do you draw the line between serving yourself and serving others? Look at the question, the language. When you said the self, serving yourself. But just before that you said, I have realized that I am Brahman. That means the self is Brahman. So you continue to serve yourself, but yourself is no longer Darius, that person. It's all of this. So as I would try to overcome earlier the problems of this one person, I will now try my best to help the Brahman in all persons. That distinction, earlier distinction between the individual self and the other disappears. That's what happens. The line is removed.
True, but I will always find somebody more hungry than me or more sick than me or whatever. So at what point do I say, well, that's...
Oh, so you're worried somebody, there are people all the time hungry. Then I'll starve to death if I keep feeding everybody else. But it's quite possible that there are many such instances of highly spiritual people, enlightened people. You don't have to be enlightened, even a very sympathetic person, giving up one's own food for person next door, giving up money which one could use for the person who needs it more. Yeah. So I guess in my case I would go on feeding the other person till I feel very hungry myself, then I would eat. Yeah. And that has been seen in a number of places. Often you would say, that's how we would define a saint, for example. A person who sacrifices oneself to a great extent. So the intense thought of self-preservation is exactly the opposite of spirituality. And somehow they live. They don't starve to death. God takes care of them. There's somebody in the back who raised their hand. Yes.
The question I have for you, my name is Sudhir Bansal. I'm from Rhode Island. So thanks for letting us come today. Unfortunately, we have pre-commitment, so we'll miss the biggest part of the talk tomorrow, but we'll be back on Sunday. The question is, in any of the previous scriptures, apart from Ramana Maharishi, there's not too much mention of the heart, but even in his other spiritual book, he talks about the mind coming to the heart and being located in the heart, and goes through very specific instances where all the 4 locations of the Chit and Manas and so on are there in the umbilicus and in the heart and so on. But he specifically refers that the mind is somehow located to the heart. So is he in some way saying, that the way I intellectualize it, he's saying that once I realize my mind, I put it into my heart, which is the seat of not necessarily bhakti, but love, devotion, giving up. So once I realize, then I'm willing to give to the other people, and this question then extends out, it's a little longer. That's why the Vijnani becomes the Jnani becomes the Vijnani of Sri Ramakrishna.
Okay. Yeah. It's a big question. It has included almost everything in that question. Yes, the question was about the use of the term heart by Ramana Maharshi. The term heart has had a long and hallowed usage in many of the scriptures in Hinduism and other religions also, but Hinduism especially. For example, Taittiriya Upanishad itself, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman, who realizes the Brahman in the sacred space of the heart. Shankaracharya has given a very straightforward interpretation of heart. He says Buddhi Guhayam, the cave of the intellect. In your mind, basically. In your mind shines consciousness, technically reflected consciousness, and from there you can trace your way back to your real nature. So Ramana Maharshi was fond of using the term Hridaya or heart for Atman, the ultimate reality, what we truly are, or your essence, what the self-inquiry is pointed towards. So in Advaita Vedanta, that's step 1. You realize yourself as witness consciousness or Sakshi, as awareness. Step 2 would be, this awareness is one and unbroken. It's not that there are multiple awarenesses. It is one and unbroken. Everything else appears in that. It's like there is a space, there's a pot. In that pot there is water, and there is space in the pot. And that space is one unbroken space, akasha, space all around. Now the first thing is to, if you want to understand what space is, you have to say that it's not the earthen pot. It's not even the water in the pot. It's that which the water occupies, the space inside that pot. So when you understand what space is in itself, then you notice it's not that the pot encloses the space, the pot is in space. And the space is unbroken, undivided, one space. It is there in all the pots and so and outside the pots. And in fact, the pots and water are all, they exist because space gives them the space to exist. And if you go through the ancient cosmology, all elements evolved from space. So this is a space example. Now you apply it to the heart or consciousness. You first of all have to see that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am awareness. At first it seems awareness is contained in this body-mind. Then you see that no, body and mind are appearing in awareness. And then you see not only this body and mind, all bodies and minds and everything indeed is appearing in awareness. Awareness is like that one unbroken sky. And then nothing is apart from that awareness. That is the true nature of the heart. Okay, one more question, we'll wrap up.
Yeah, anybody else?
What's the food situation? That's the important thing.
Rajan?
Yeah, he's gone.
Oh, so the guy must be here.
Guy must be here. The food is here. Any more questions? Yes. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Sure. My name is Seema. My question is, we talked a lot about japa.
Japa, yeah.
So for somebody who's starting out, you hear like different mantras, like for Gayatri mantra, you have to say it at a certain time, or do certain, there are certain regulations for different mantras. So what do you recommend as like a mantra for maybe a beginner to start with?
So the best thing, especially what we do in our tradition, and in many Hindu traditions, is that you take mantra diksha. You're initiated into a mantra, empowered or initiated into a mantra. So Guru would typically give you the mantra, would say this is, so for example, Shiva. Shiva is your Ishta Devata, your ideal deity, your desired deity. And there is a mantra associated with Shiva. This is the form of Shiva, and the mantra associated is, suppose, Om Namah Shivaya. Now the Guru will teach you how to meditate on the form of the deity, where you will meditate, how you will meditate, and will give you the mantra to repeat along with that. So this is the mantra sadhana, practice of mantra japa. The Ishta means desire. So the Ishta Devata, the desired deity, and the Ishta mantra, the mantra which the Guru gives you, it can be different from different persons. In Hinduism, there is a whole like a spectrum of it. It could be the Divine Mother in her various forms. It could be Ganapati, Shiva, Krishna. It could be one of the avatars. So those mantras are there. One mantra will be given to you, one deity, with the understanding that all are actually the different forms of the same one. And then you would repeat it, and it will be taught to you how to do that. Now, suppose until that time, I find my Guru and get a mantra. One common instruction given to anybody without any problem, especially on the path of Advaita Vedanta, is what is called Dirgha Pranava Uccharanam, prolonged chanting of Om. Just the Om. That's the most powerful and ubiquitous mantra. Om, what we did at the beginning, but for much longer periods, 30 minutes or so. And you can do it softly and long, prolong it till you run out of breath. And then you can move on to mentally chanting Om. So Dirgha Pranava Uccharanam, in fact, in the chanting of Om, a little doing it audibly is good. So you're actually continue. And you continue for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. What is the point? It will calm down the mind very powerfully. These are some methods of calming down the mind which yogis use, Advaitins also use. One is pranayama, which is used by yogins, the particular method of, and the safest way of doing it is following the breath without trying to hold the breath. Or this one, Dirgha Pranava Uccharan. It means prolonged, the pronunciation of a prolonged Om, multiple times. Om, you can start with Om, but then do go and on a Guru hunt and take mantra diksha. Yes.
How can we get a mantra?
In our tradition, there are different traditions, of course. Asha Vidya also, I think you can get a mantra if you ask the Guru.
Yes.
In the Ramakrishna mission, there are Swamis who are, I'm not, but those who are authorized to give mantra initiation. So you can approach them. But then you have to make up your mind, do I belong to that particular tradition? Typically in Hinduism, these are not restrictive. So it's not that if you belong to a particular tradition, in general they're not restrictive. Some are restrictive, but in general these traditions are not restrictive. What I mean is, if you have been initiated in a particular order, in a particular deity and a mantra, it doesn't stop you from studying other things, reading, but you will have a home practice, a personal practice, a core to hold on. And I would strongly recommend, everyone should, if you're a spiritual seeker, have a mantra and practice. That's at the level of Upasana. That's at that middle level. Wrap up?
Yeah.
Will we get a...
I guess so.
All right.
We will have 3 more classes, so I'm pretty sure there are going to be more
Can I ask
questions.
an unrelated question?
3 or 4?
Related to your talk.
There are 4.
Four.
3 tomorrow. No.
Well, 2 tomorrow,
2
3
tomorrow.
lectures, yeah. So morning silent meditation,
Uh-huh.
9 to 10:30,
Huh.
11 to 12:30.
11 to 12:30, and then in the afternoon 1 class.
Well, that's what we wanted, but I will decide
Yeah,
whatever you want
So
me to do.
there are 2 classes tomorrow, right?
2 in the morning,
Ah.
and
2 on
then
Sunday.
if you feel up to it, people would love it.
And then we have the picnic also. So we can have informal discussions there.
Okay.
If it rains, Swamiji, maybe.
Yeah.
Sunday we have 2 classes.
2 classes.
Sunday we have 2 classes. Okay. Somebody was asking.
I had an unrelated to today's talk, but
Yes.
related to Vedanta. We talk of subconscious or unconscious in Vedanta all the time. I'm trying to.
In Vedanta we don't.
I mean, we relate it to
Yeah.
it. I mean, where does it relate to our understanding of manas and buddhi and
Yeah.
antakarana? Where is
The
this?
closest, I think, in Vedanta we can go into this is where we find a related term would be the chitta, our storehouse of impressions from past lives, which is this where the storehouse of what is called samskaras are there in this life and past lives. So the mind is like a machine. Just like the physical body is like a machine, and the mind is also like a machine. And so it takes impressions. Our memories are there, and our experiences leave impressions there. So these are called samskaras. Especially powerful are the thoughts and feelings which we entertain in our conscious mind again and again. They become habitual patterns. Since it's a machine, it will work on a pattern. It will work on it has an inertia of its own. Just like any machine, like a body. So suppose I just want to become very fit and healthy. Now, just by thinking about it, I cannot become. There is a way to become. And I can do a lot of exercise and all. Over time, few weeks, months, years, I will get the benefit of it. Diet and exercise. Similarly, the mind also, immediately it will not change. That is because that storehouse is there, those samskaras. So your question is, where is it? What is the corresponding thing about unconscious or subconscious? It's a storehouse of samskaras which is called chitta. And what we entertain at the conscious level of our mind, that goes into the chitta. So for example, there is a saying, Evam aharnisham avartate vritti samskara chakra. So the wheel of vrittis and samskaras rotates day and night. What are vrittis? The modifications of the mind. Any thought, in the conscious level, whatever thoughts we have, whatever feelings we have, perceptions we have, they are all called chitta vritti in the mind. And the thoughts, and they are not in the form of thoughts, but they are there, which we are not directly experiencing. That storehouse, those are the samskaras. But they are connected. So whatever is in the samskaras, they will bubble up as vrittis in the mind. And whatever you hold on to in the vritti, that will again go back and influence the samskara. Now directly we cannot influence the samskaras. This is all yoga, by the way, not Advaita. So directly we cannot influence the samskaras. The way to influence the samskaras is to catch hold of what we can catch hold of, which is our vrittis. The kind of thoughts and feelings we are entertaining consciously. So what normally happens is some kind of samskara comes up as a vritti in the mind. And it could be positive, negative, as per my past conditioning, same old way of thinking. If you notice our thinking, they are patterns, same kind of thinking. There's lots of thoughts, lots of garbage, but the same kind of garbage, it comes up. So those patterns are there. As they bubble up, normally we don't do anything about it. We are not even aware about it. And it works in that level of our mind and then disappears after some time. Something else comes along. But a yogi is aware of the finer movements of the mind. So when the bubbles are forming and coming up to the surface of the lake of the mind, the yogi is aware. And the yogi, if he finds that those vrittis which are developing are not spiritual, are not helpful to spiritual life, the yogi will try to replace those vrittis with positive vrittis. And then hold on to those positive vrittis. They will disappear after some time, but they will go back and influence the storehouse. After some time, what will happen is, the vrittis which come up, they will be automatically positive. Sometimes it's a long period of time, not so easy. So there is a funny story an instructive story of a meditator who was meditating and complained to the Guru, all sorts of bad thoughts are coming to my mind. And the Guru said, look, here's a pile of black stones and a pile of white stones. And whenever a bad thought comes, put one black stone there. Whenever a good thought means thought of your Ishta Devata, devotional, whatever, positive thought. Put a white stone there. And in this way keep on. So that's a good way of tracking it. Now it's a game. You can now nicely follow his thoughts. In the first few days, weeks, months of meditation, the pile in front of you was mostly black stones. A few white stones here and there. But over months and years, the white started increasing. The white stones were more and more until it was mostly white again. What has happened is the samskaras inside are changing.
They have to why do you say that we don't use that in Vedanta? Because in Vedanta also we talk of vrittis and samskaras.
Yes.
I mean, this is a way of attaining our, I guess, chitta shuddhi.
Yes, that is true. So these are, but by Vedanta I meant the self-inquiry. Remember the 3 levels of sadhana. This is at the middle level of sadhana. And one more point here, it actually is difficult, what I just said. This is, I'm quoting from the Vyasa Bhashya of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. There it is quoted, this quotation which I gave. But it is difficult. A senior Swami once told me the importance of karma yoga. He said, it takes an advanced meditator, a yogi, to solve the problems at the level of meditation. For most of us, very valuable advice, for most of us, little external struggle is necessary. External struggle means karma yoga. In your family, in your job, you have to deal with difficult people, difficult situations, physical ill health, tension from the world outside, behavior of other people. How to deal with all that and still maintain my calmness of mind and do the right thing, it takes effort. But he says, the Swami told me, that is actually easier than changing it at the level of your samskaras. That is even more advanced. So karma yoga will do that same chitta shuddhi. But we have better, more practical instruments to deal with it. As mind becomes more pure, the meditation method will become more effective. It's the same clearing. This is mud all around. Now I can use a shovel to clear it, or I can use a surgical scalpel to clear it. A surgical scalpel can clear fine particles of dirt, but you will damage the instrument if you try to clear mud from the landing or something.